You are not the mother.
Can you imagine hearing that after getting a maternity DNA test result for both of your children that you carried for 9 months? Well, this is unfortunately what Lydia Fairchild heard after she took a DNA test along with the father of her children, her ex-husband, when she was trying to apply for child support. So Lydia Fairchild was trying to apply for child support, and one of the requests to apply for the child support was to take a paternity test to verify that the father was actually the father, but also a maternity test. Needless to say, it was a shock when the maternity test is the one that actually came back negative. She couldn't believe her eyes. At the time, she was pregnant with her third child. So, the judge was convinced that she was lying. So they decided to take away both of the children and put them in foster care because nobody could believe her story because DNA test doesn't lie, or does it? So she couldn't find any lawyer to represent her because nobody wanted to go against DNA evidence. It's considered one of the best evidence in the United States, in the world, but especially in the United States. So how can anybody fight against DNA testing? Since she was pregnant, she was supposed to appear in court and she was representing herself. So she asked the judge to move the date for her to be able to give birth to her child. They agreed, but they decided to send a court appointee to witness the birth of the third child and also take a DNA test of the child. So the court appointee went with her, was in the room with the father of the child during the birth. They witnessed the doctors take a blood sample from Lydia and from the baby. And 2 weeks later, the result came back negative again. She wasn't genetically the mother of the children. Something was clearly wrong, but the judge just decided that he had to go with DNA evidence and that it must be something else. At that point, they believed that she was running some type of surrogacy scam, trying to use other people to get benefit. So how was this case resolved? So after hearing that with a witness present, she gave birth, blood sample were withdrawn, and the test came back negative again, a lawyer decided that it was worth representing her because something was probably going to be able to be proven. That lawyer name was Alan Tyndall. So Alan Tyndall decided to do some research on Lydia's case. Through his research, he found the case of a woman named Karen Keegan. In 2002, Karen needed a kidney transplant. So, like in most cases of someone needed a transplant, before they put the person on the donor list, they usually check the family members to make sure that anybody in the family was a good match. So her children, her husband, and several other family members underwent some genetic testing. But the troubling result of those genetic testing showed she couldn't be a children's mother. She was shocked. Everybody was shocked by that story because everybody knew she carried the children and gave birth to them. So they were wondering what happened. Because the situation was so troubling, the doctors decided to do more genetic testing and they ended up finding out that she was a human chimera. So what does that mean? She had blood cells that were genetically different from other cells in her body. So basically, she had two different sets of DNA. So Lydia's lawyer was able to get approval for more genetic testing after the judge heard this story, because now they finally had proof that something like this had happened to someone else. They took samples from her hair and her skin, but those samples were the same as the previous one and they didn't match her children. But when they finally decided to take some sample from a cervical smear, they finally found a different set of DNA, and that DNA matched her children and her mother. She was also a human chimera. So both women had two different sets of DNA. It is a biological condition called chimerism. And chimerism is basically due to two fertilized eggs or two early embryos fusing together in the womb to create one individual, one person. In human, it usually happens when fraternal twins and one twin absorbs the other one really early in the pregnancy and keeps the DNA of brother or his sister inside. developed with both DNA completely separate inside of his body. Some of the DNA goes to some part of the body and the other go to other. So basically, depending on where the sample is being taken from, you can get one set of DNA or the other one. Chimerism is actually really rare. Well, there's only like 100 cases, registered cases. There's probably more, but the actual registered cases that we know of are 100. And one of the reasons why is that outside of a DNA test, it's really difficult to diagnose because there's no clear signs or like external signs and symptoms. Although some people do have some signs. Some of those signs are usually having patchy skin, having different color eyes, like one eye will be brown and the other one will be green, or one blue eye and one green eye, for example. Two different type of red blood cell, but once again, that requires to do some type of testing. And also genital ambiguity or intersexuality. So basically someone who is not clearly male or female just based on their body. But the number one issue that has been found in most people with chimerism is some type of autoimmune disease. And one known person who was recently diagnosed with chimerism is Taylor Mule. She's an American singer and model, and she has two different skin color on her torso. When she was born and when she was a child, it was believed to be a birthmark. That's what the doctor said. But she kept having several health issues, mostly autoimmune health issues. So in her quest to figure out why she was having all these autoimmune health issues and what was going on with her health, they discovered that she had chimerism. She had a fraternal twin that she absorbs. And the reason why she has two different skin tones is because of the different DNA. So basically, one of the skin tones was supposed to be a twin, and the rest of the body skin tone is hers. And she even explained that she has several different reaction, like skin reaction to like food and different product that she used, and the reaction is always different on the side of her body that is a different color compared to like her other skin color. The test also showed that she had two different immune systems and two different blood types. So the reason why she kept having all of these health issues is because, well, her immune system was basically constantly fighting a twin immune system because it was foreign to it. So that's why she kept having all of these issues. Chimerism seems to be rare. Doctors believe that it might not be as rare as we think, just because of the fact that there's a high prevalence of twin loss. Women who have multiple pregnancies tend to lose one of the fetuses really early in pregnancy. So we believe that there might actually be way more cases where the surviving twin actually absorb the DNA of their twin, but we just don't have enough evidence to figure out the exact number of chimerism found in humans. Outside of this form of chimerism, there's also other form of chimerism. The first one will be called the complete donor chimerism, and that is due to bone marrow transplant. People who have leukemia, anemia, sickle cell, sometimes they need to get bone marrow transplant. The thing is, bone marrow actually contains stem cells from the donor, and those stem cells develop into blood cells. When they develop into blood cells after they are transplanted, they are developed into the blood cell with the DNA of the donor. So you end up with having a mix of donor blood cell and the patient blood cell. That's how you end up with having two different sets of DNA in the blood cell. The other type of chimerism is called MICROCHIMERISM, and that is due to pregnancy. Yep, pregnancy, you heard it well. So basically, there's a small number of cells from the fetus that migrate into the mother's blood during pregnancy. They even migrate into different organs. It usually lasts for a while, like during the pregnancy and a little bit after a mother gives birth. But recent studies have shown that it actually can last way longer, actually a lifetime. There's been cases of women in their 50s, 60s, and even like a 94-year-old woman who had fetal cells in her brain. Obviously, those were found after she was dead and her brain was studied. Microchimerism can actually last longer than scientists first thought. The final type of chimerism is called artificial chimera, and that's when basically human cells are grown into animals. 2017, human cells were grown into pig embryo in an institute in California. They were able to create basically a human pig chimera. But for ethical reason, those were destroyed. So although most people, when they hear chimera, they think about the Greek mythology and a monster made of different animal parts. In reality, there's actual chimera in real life, like human chimera, but they're not monsters. It's not some type of mythical creature. A basically biological condition that is created by the fusion of two different sets of DNA. More science videos coming soon, but if you also like a story, click on the link on the screen or on the description bar below. Thank you.